Welcome to another week of the SEC Sports Guys. I'm your host, Hunter Ames, joined here with Jason Lee, Lemansky Flakes, bringing you another week of SEC action. First, we're going to run down the 12 teams in the SEC men's basketball. We'll go ahead and break down the first 6, starting right now with Lemansky.
The Alabama Crimson Tide basketball team is a team with high expectations. Last year, they were snubbed from the NCAA tournament, but this year, they're anticipating a deep run in March. Head coach Anthony Grant is looking to do bigger and better things this year, as it is the 3rd year as the head coach of Alabama. The Crimson Tide are bringing back a lot of depth this season, especially at the forward position. Alabama poses one of the best forward tandems in the SEC with JaMychal Green and Tony Mitchell. Green is the team captain and a lone senior on the team. He's a wonderful leader on the floor and off the floor. JaMychal Green averages 15 points a game and 7 rebounds a game, while Mitchell has identical stats. The Crimson Tide are 8-2 and should be feeling really great about themselves after 1 month of basketball. The Crimson Tide start SEC play with a road game against the Georgia Bulldogs on January the 7th.
The Arkansas Razorbacks are looking to regain their national attention as they bring in a brand new head coach in Mike Anderson. He's a previously head coach at Missouri and UAB and has been very successful at both schools, and he's hoping to bring that back to Arkansas. He was also previously at Arkansas as an assistant under Nolan Richardson when they won the national championship in the early 90s. He brings a hard-nosed defense, full-court press defense to the game. Arkansas will definitely be a threat defensively in the SEC and hopefully the NCAA tournament at the end of the year. Anderson has led the Razorbacks to a 5-3 record so far this year. 2 tough non-conference games in UConn and Oklahoma, losses there, but otherwise clean slate for the Razorbacks. They will begin conference play January 7th against Mississippi State, and they're looking to make a good record going into the March Madness and the tournament in March. They're led by B.J. Young, which is a freshman, averaging 19 points a game, and Marshawn Powell, who is a junior, averaging 16 points a game. This is a very young Arkansas team, only 1 senior, 2 juniors, the rest are underclassmen, so only time will tell to see if this group can play together and lead themselves to an NCAA tournament here in March.
The Georgia Bulldogs currently 4-5 on the season and currently on a 4-game losing streak. They will open up SEC play on January 7th as they play number 15 Alabama. Head coach Mark Fox enters his 3rd season with the Bulldogs. In his inaugural season with the Bulldogs, he went 14-17 with wins over 3 top 25 opponents and came close to knocking off a few more. He improved the Bulldogs to 21-12 last season, taking them into postseason play. Freshman guard Kentavious Caldwell-Pope leads the Bulldogs offense, averaging 13.4 points per game. Senior guard Gerald Robinson assists the scoring, averaging 12.6 points per game. Sophomore forward Marcus Thornton leads the defense, averaging just under 7 rebounds per game. The Bulldogs currently rank 312th in the nation in scoring, only 59 points per game. The defense is also ranking low at 223rd in the nation with rebounds. The team is only shooting on an average of .378 from the floor. If the Bulldogs want to continue their success from last season, they need to pull together and finish strong before they enter SEC play.
The Mississippi State Bulldogs finished last season with the 17-14 record, and this year they're looking to improve from last year. Although they lost 3 starters from last year, they also brought in 5 freshman recruits to fill in the void. In fact, according to Rivals.com, Mississippi State had the 12th best recruiting class in the country. One of the big reasons why Mississippi State gets so much highly talented recruits is because of head coach Rich Stansbury. Stansbury, who is in the 14th season as head coach, has a very high coaching pedigree and is very respected among players and coaches. The leading scorer on the Bulldogs is senior guard D. Boss, averaging 18 points per game. The Mississippi State Bulldogs on a tear with a 9-1 record is looking to carry that momentum in SEC play. The SEC opener is January the 7th on the road against the Arkansas Razorbacks.
The Kentucky Wildcats are currently ranked number 1 in the country and looking to win their 8th national championship this year. They are 8-1 on the year with big wins over North Carolina and Kansas, and their only loss coming in this past weekend to Indiana, which was a close 1-point loss on a last second shot by Indiana. John Calipari is in his 3rd year as head coach for the Wildcats. He's had a successful stint at Memphis before coming to Kentucky, and he's been known as one of the best recruiters in the country, and he's definitely showed that the past couple years here for the Wildcats. They've got a great roster of big men, guards, very young led by Deron Lamb and Terrence Jones, both sophomores, averaging 13 points and 14 points respectively. And the Wildcats' next big game is going to be New Year's Eve against Louisville, and then they tip off the conference season January 7th when they host South Carolina in Rupp Arena.
Tennessee Volunteers are currently 3-5 on the season. One of those losses included a double overtime loss to number 8 Memphis back in November. With the firing of Bruce Pearl back in March and an ongoing NCAA investigation into the program, this will be a rebuilding time for the program. Head coach Quanzo Martin enters his first season with the Volunteers. He is the former head coach of Missouri State. In his 3-year tenure at Missouri State, he was able to take them from 11-20 record his first season to 26-9 this past season. Leading scorers for the team include sophomore guards Trey Golden, who is averaging just over 15 points per game, and Jordan McRae, who is averaging just under 14 points per game. Junior forward Jerron Maymon leads the Vols defense with 8 rebounds per game. The Volunteers currently rank in 30th in the nation with 79 points a game. However, on defense, the team ranks at 102nd in the nation in rebounds. The team as a whole shoots fairly well with an average of .470 from the floor. The Vols are looking to pull it together with their new coach and finish up the non-conference games, including another key matchup with Memphis before they enter SEC play. Those are your first 6 teams in the SEC. When we come back from break, we'll go ahead and cover the other 6 teams of the SEC men's basketball.
Look, we're not allowed to openly endorse any product. The big guy's really clear on that. But if I could endorse any product, it would be cable TV of East Alabama's hometown bundle. Tons of amazing channels, blazing fast internet, and unlimited calling. Talk about a gift that has it all. I gotta go.
Get a hometown bundle at Cable TV of East Alabama with digital cable, high-speed internet, and digital phone for just $89.95 a month for 12 months.
Grab the kids, grab the snacks. It's time to get muddy for this New Year's Mud Bog at Mudders Park. Think you got what it takes to your mud bogging machine? Join us December 30th through January 1st for the New Year's Mud Bog. All trucks to play, big or small, so put on your boots and start your engine. Get ready for a mud of a time at Mudders Park, located off of Highway 431 going towards Eufaula.
Do you know Mattress City has Tempur-Pedic mattresses, the most highly recommended mattress in America? Tempur-Pedic is rated #1 in comfort, sleep satisfaction, and back support. When you buy a Tempur-Pedic, you never have to worry about flipping or rotating again, not to mention the best motion separation available. So come to Mattress City to buy all of your Tempur-Pedic mattresses and get everything you need for a good night's sleep.
So shop all the rest and come buy from the best. Mattress City between Winn-Dixie and Lowe's on Veterans Parkway.
Hey, welcome back. Again, we're going to go ahead and finish up the SEC men's basketball. We've got the remaining 6 teams, so again, we'll go ahead and start with Lemansky.
The Florida Gators are another solid team in the SEC. The Florida Gators are sitting with a 7-2 record. The Gators get the benefit of doubt because they lost to 2 teams that they were ranked #2 at the time they faced off. Those teams being Ohio State and Syracuse, respectively. Both of their losses were very tough games that went to the last minute. But if the Gators want to make noise in March, those are the teams they will have to defeat to get over the hump. Head coach Billy Donovan is a very prestigious coach, and his offensive system revolves around ball movement and putting points in the basket in an up-tempo pace, as the Florida Gators are ranked 3rd in the country in points per game with 87. The Gators also rank in the top 10 in team assists with 18 a game. The leading scorer of that high-powered offense is junior guard Kenny Bonton with 19 points per game. The Florida Gators tip off SEC play on January 7th on the road against the Tennessee Volunteers.
The South Carolina Gamecocks enter their fourth season with Darren Horn as their head coach. They're in a completely rebuilding mode this year as they have no seniors on the team and only 1 junior on the current roster. They are led by sophomore Bruce Ellington, who's averaging 10 points a game and 5 rebounds. So far this year, they are 3-5 on the season with tough losses to North Carolina and Southern California, playing a very tough non-conference schedule. The Gamecocks are also looking to get very big production out of DeMontre Harris, who's another sophomore underclassman who's looking to produce big numbers for this Gamecock team. Darren Horn has done a good job recruiting the past couple of years, but he's trying to get these guys, these new recruits that he has on his team, a little bit of experience with no upperclassmen to help them out. Coming up, South Carolina will have a big in-state rival against Clemson, and then they will start conference play January 7th.
The Vanderbilt Commodores are currently 6-3 on the season, suffering 2 overtime losses to then number 11th ranked Xavier and number 6 Louisville. They will face number 11 Marquette on December 29th before opening SEC play starting with Auburn on January 7th. Head coach Kevin Stallings enters his 13th season with the Commodores. In his tenure with Vanderbilt, he has led them to 8 postseason appearances, including 2 NCAA Sweet 16 appearances, 5 NCAA tournament berths, and 6 20-win seasons. Last season, they knocked off 5 teams that made it to the NCAA tournament, including Kentucky, who made it to the Final Four. Junior guard John Jenkins leads the team in scoring with 21 points a game. Senior forward Jeffrey Taylor assists with just averaging 16 points per game. Senior forward Lance Goulburn leads the team on defense, averaging just over 7 rebounds per game. The team currently ranks 65th in the nation in total points and 155th overall in rebounds. The team is shooting on an average of .456 from the floor. Coach Stallings is hoping to build on last year's 23-win season and improve play within the SEC and make another berth into the NCAA tournament.
The Ole Miss Rebels are a team looking to improve on their season from last year. Last season, they were bounced in the first round of NIT. Head coach Andy Kennedy is in his 6th season as a head coach of Ole Miss Rebels. The Rebels have been a victim of an easy schedule so far, as they have only played 1 ranked opponent, and that was their lone loss, losing by 30 points. The Rebels have been taking care of business of the other teams as they stand in good shape with a 9-1 record. Junior forward Murphy Holiday has been outstanding this far, averaging a solid double-double with 11 points and 10 rebounds per game. The Rebels look to keep the momentum going as they continue this season. They begin SEC play on January 7th on the road against the LSU Tigers.
The Auburn Tigers showed significant improvement last year and are looking to build on that progress this year under second-year coach Tony Barbie, who has brought in recruits to go along with a couple of the veterans that he already has on the roster. This year's team will be led by senior Frankie Sullivan, who's coming off of a knee injury last season, as well as Varez Ward, who's a transfer point guard from Maryland, and Kenny Gabriel, who's a senior shooting guard for the Tigers. Offense will not be a problem for the Tigers this year. Sullivan, Gabriel, and Ward all double-digit scores. Defense is going to be what Tony Barbie is looking for this season for the Tigers. This is the big season for the Tigers. Big recruiting class. Willie Kosai and Bernard Marina come in from Central Park out of Birmingham. They're 2 highly touted freshmen that are going to help the Tigers. They look to improve on their 4-1 record so far, the only blemish coming to Seton Hall. They will begin conference play January 7th when they host Vanderbilt at the Auburn Arena.
The LSU Tigers are currently 6-3 on the season. They have a key matchup coming up on December 19th against number 11 Marquette. They will open up SEC play with Ole Miss on January 7th. Head coach Trent Johnson in his 4th season with the Tigers. He has had 2 very strong back-to-back recruiting classes. Sophomore guard Andre Stringer leads the team in points, averaging 12 per game. The other go-to guy on offense is junior center Justin Hamilton, who averages just 11 points per game. Freshman forward Johnny O'Brien leads the team on defense with just over 6 rebounds per game. The team is currently 143rd in the nation in points and 74th in the nation in rebounds. They're shooting an average of .402 from the floor so far this season. The LSU Tigers need to improve in all areas of the game before they get ready to enter conference play. Well, that'll do it for your SEC men's basketball preview. When we come back from break, we'll be breaking down the Heisman Trophy winner as well as the other college football awards given this year.
Look, we're not allowed to openly endorse any product. The big guy's really clear on that. But if I could endorse any product, it would be Cable TV of East Alabama's hometown bundle. Tons of amazing channels, blazing fast internet, and unlimited calling. Talk about a gift that has it all. I gotta go.
Get a hometown bundle at Cable TV of East Alabama with digital cable, high-speed internet, and digital phone for just $89.95 a month for 12 months.
Grab the kids, grab the snacks. It's time to get muddy for this New Year's Mudballs Mutters Park. Think you got what it takes to a mudballing machine? Join us December 30th through January 1st for the New Year's Mudball. All trucks can play, big or small, so put on your boots and start your engine. Get ready for a mud of a time at Mutters Park, located off of Highway 431 going towards Eufaula.
Do you know know Mattress City has Tempur-Pedic mattresses, the most highly recommended mattress in America? Tempur-Pedic is rated #1 in comfort, sleep satisfaction, and back support. When you buy a Tempur-Pedic, you never have to worry about flipping or rotating again, not to mention the best motion separation available. So come to Mattress City to buy all of your Tempur-Pedic mattresses and get everything you need for a good night's sleep.
So shop all the rest and come buy from the best. Mattress City between Winn-Dixie and Lowe's on Veterans Parkway.
Welcome back to the SEC Sports Guys. Now for a look at this year's College Football Trophy Awards. Starting with number 1, the Outland Trophy, given to the best outstanding interior lineman, goes to Barrett Jones of Alabama. Lemansky, tell us a bit about Barrett Jones this season.
Well, Barrett Jones has been a very important part to the Alabama Crimson Tide this year, and a big part to the running game. You know, every time Trent Richardson is getting an interview, he always thanks his offensive lineman, and in particular, he's thanking Barrett Jones because he's an All-American interior lineman, and he's a big factor to the run game, and a main reason why Trent Richardson was a Heisman candidate. So Alabama has to be very grateful for a player like Barrett Jones on their team.
Good, you're absolutely correct. Number 2, the Jim Thorpe Award, given to the most outstanding defensive back, goes to Morris Claiborne of LSU. Jason, tell us a little bit about Morris Claiborne at LSU and what he's done for that team.
Well, you know, LSU's defense has just been phenomenal this year, and all the credit usually goes to the interior lineman, you know, the defensive line. But that secondary led by Claiborne was just outstanding. You didn't see many deep passes at all against LSU this year. Alabama tried that one, you know, in the game of the decade, you know, the game of the century that they called it, and it was picked off. So they kept the long ball away. Teams had to try to run the ball, which we know couldn't happen again. So Claiborne is really the key guy there to lead that tough defense.
All right, and next, the Chuck Benedart Award, given to the best defensive player of the year. Again, going with LSU, Tyrann Mathieu, also a Heisman candidate. We've talked about him a little bit. Tell me about, was he deserving of winning the Defensive Player of the Year?
Absolutely. From game 1 when they played Oregon until the last game where they played Georgia in the SEC championship game, he has been the best player on the best defensive team in the entire nation. You know, he makes interceptions, fumbles, sacks, all of this. He's all over the field, and he even, you know, is a great punt returner, so he's a great defensive player, and he's well deserving of the award.
You're right. He was very key in the SEC championship, turning things around for LSU when he had that punt return. Very exciting player to watch. Can't wait to watch him in the national championship. The next award, we're going to take a look at the Doak Walker Award. Goes to the best running back in the nation, Trent Richardson. I think he's well deserved of it. Probably should have got a few more votes there in the Heisman. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no question here that they got it right. Trent Richardson is by far the best running back in the country. Like we said earlier, third in the Heisman, best running back here, and you know, he gives, and rightfully so, he gives all the credit to the offensive line. You know, we should have seen one of his offensive linemen win the offensive lineman of the year. Just an outstanding offense, great year by Richardson, most deserving for this award.
Next, we're going to go to the Frank Broyles Assistant Coach of the Year. It goes to Defensive Coordinator John Chavis of LSU. Tell us a little bit about John Chavis and how he's deserving of this award. You know, LSU does have one of the premier defenses in college football, so tell us a little bit about that.
Exactly. John Chavis is very deserving of this award because LSU has one of the best defenses, and, you know, they're undefeated. And, like, every team they played that had a dominant offense, they shut them down. They shut down Arkansas, they shut down Georgia, they shut down Alabama. All the teams they played, they shut them down. And he's a big factor on the team. And John Chavis, he brings a great element to the defense, coming from the defensive coordinator position, and, you know, he's very deserving of the award.
Any other thoughts on John Chavis?
Oh yeah, I bet well deserving by far, the best defense in the country. Got it right here. They definitely got it right.
The next is the Disney Spirit Award. It goes to the most inspirational team or player in college football. This year's recipient, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Elaborate on that a little bit for us.
Yeah, this was a good story. I mean, we all know of the tornado that hit Tuscaloosa back in the spring, and this went to the Crimson Tide. But most importantly, accepting the award on behalf of the Crimson Tide was Carson Tinker. He was his girlfriend and he were caught up in the tornado. Their apartment was totally demolished. He was thrown over 100 feet away out into a yard. His girlfriend actually passed away. So he's dealt with a lot this past year. I also believe that he had a relative that passed away early in the year. And despite that, he kept working hard. He was totally committed to his team, had a great year. So well deserving this award, just truly a very good story here.
Thoughts on that? I mean, another tornado happened before the season, but how does that affect the season before going into it, dealing with such a catastrophe in your area, and then going to play college football?
Well, it affects the team, not only the team, but only the community also, because it brings the community together. And, you know, football is an event that can bring everyone together and make everyone happy. And, you know, the football team, you know, made the community proud by performing well.
All right. And the Home Depot Award going to the best coach in college football for the year, Les Miles of LSU. He's done fantastic things with LSU this year. #1 undefeated team in the nation. Will be playing in the national championship. Tell us a little bit about Les Miles.
Les Miles just keeps coming back. You remember a couple of years ago, they were wanting to get rid of him, hoping he would take the Michigan job a couple of years ago. Comes back, wins the national championship, then has another down year. They're trying to get rid of him again. He just keeps coming back. He's a phenomenal coach. He's got great assistants that are recruiting for him, and he may be one of the top 3 coaches in the nation that are as good as anybody in motivating their players. He has his guys ready to play every single week, not just for the big games, but even the smaller games. They take care of business every week. There were no games this year where you tuned in at halftime and said, well, that could be an upset right there. He had his guys ready to play, and he was by far the SEC Coach of the Year, no doubt.
Well, my thoughts, you know, not only is he a good coach, but just look at what he had to come through. You know, the first week of the season, he played without, you know, starting quarterback Jordan Jefferson, and he was suspended for multiple games, and then midway into the season, Tyrann Mathieu was suspended, and a couple of running backs, and I feel like he overcame that with the undefeated season, and you know, he deserves it because he played without his best player, you know, and I just feel like Coach of the Year is him, hands down. So.
Correct. When we come back from break, we'll be taking a look at this year's Heisman Trophy winner, as well as the breakdown of the other candidates.
Look, we're not allowed to openly endorse any product. The big guy's really clear on that. But if I could endorse any product, it would be cable TV of East Alabama's hometown bundle. Tons of amazing channels, blazing fast internet, and unlimited calling. Talk about a gift that has it all. I gotta go.
Get a hometown bundle at Cable TV of East Alabama with digital cable, high-speed internet, and digital phone for just $89.95 a month for 12 months.
Do you know Mattress City has Tempur-Pedic mattresses, the most highly recommended mattress in America? Tempur-Pedic is rated #1 in comfort, sleep satisfaction, and back support. When you buy a Tempur-Pedic, you never have to worry about flipping or rotating again, not to mention the best motion separation available. So come to Mattress City to buy all of your Tempur-Pedic mattresses and get everything you need for a good night's sleep.
So shop all the rest and come buy from the best. Mattress City between Winn-Dixie and Lowe's on Veterans Parkway.
Hey, welcome back to the SEC Sports Guys. Now let's take a look at this year's Heisman Trophy winner.
Was off the hands of Robert Griffin. He very calmly retreated, picked the ball up, rushed it to the left side, then fired a strike to Terrence Williams for the Baylor score. Snap back to Griffin, fakes the handoff. Griffin up the middle to the 40, to the 50. It's a foot race. Woo! Griffin down the right side. He's going to score 71 yards. Snap back to Griffin. Griffin has time, now pressured. Now trying to get away, still on his feet, ad-libbing. Robert Griffin runs back to the right side, gets a great block. Griffin will loft it into the end zone. It is a touchdown to Ernest Smith. It's a touchdown. How about the ad-lib ability of Robert Griffin? He hits Ernest Smith for a Baylor touchdown.
All right, guys, so first thoughts on the Heisman Trophy winner. Lemansky, we'll start with you.
Well, my initial thoughts on, Robert Griffin winning the Heisman, I felt like he was well-deserved. I feel like he had the great body of work, and he played on a weak team, and he elevated their status to prominence.
Okay.
I was a little shocked at first. I thought that Robert Griffin, coming from a smaller team, would have a little bit of a disadvantage. But once you look at the stats and break it down and see how he compared to the other candidates, I think in the end they got it right as well. So I agree with Lemansky. I think we got the right choice here.
Do you think that voters might have already had their minds made up on who they wanted to, or did Trent Richardson possibly lose this? Because we almost thought he was a shoo-in for it. Do you think he maybe lost it because they didn't make it to the SEC championship?
I think the last weekend did play a factor. I don't think it was so much as Alabama not winning the SEC championship. I think just so many people tuned in to that last weekend of football, and they saw Robert Griffin play. They saw Andrew Luck play. They didn't see Trent Richardson. So I think that helped a lot. I don't necessarily think Alabama not winning the championship was a factor in it, but not playing that last weekend and the other guys actually playing, I think that was a factor.
Okay, so we heard Jason's thoughts on it. What do you think on that?
Well, my thoughts, I'm going to take another direction. I feel like, since Trent Richardson is on Alabama, they're making a title game. I feel like, a couple of voters have a bitter taste in their mouth. It's like, hey, he went to the title game. Let's just give it to, Robert Griffin, since, most of the population, wanted Oklahoma State in the title game. So I feel like if by Alabama getting to the title game, it kind of lost his chances. Like, he lost his chances to win the Heisman.
I personally think, guys, that Trent Richardson is a phenomenal running back. I thought he was better than Mark Ingram when he did win the Heisman. I don't want to take anything away from Mark Ingram. I think he was a great one, but I think Trent Richardson was actually better than him. And then I went through and I added up all of the first-place votes, and I was wondering if Trent Richardson got all of his that he got, and then you took all the rest of the field, Tyrann Mathieu and Monty Ball and the rest of those guys, if you added those all in, he still wouldn't even end up in second place. Why do you think the voters were feeling more love for Andrew Luck and Robert Griffin III?
Well, I think a couple things. I think, you brought up Mark Ingram. I think Mark Ingram might have hurt Trent Richardson with just winning it 2 years ago, Cam Newton from Auburn winning it the year before. Maybe they were tired of the SEC, and there's already been this debate on the two SEC teams in the national championship. So they could have been looking outside the conference for the Heisman, looking for somebody else. And the other point is, Andrew Luck was the favorite coming in. So I think some voters stuck with their pick all the way through, even though Richardson did come on there at the end. I think it still got the votes. And the last point, Mathieu being in the South along with Richardson, I think they kind of split the votes among the people in the South. Richardson didn't win the South vote. A lot of them, especially the Louisiana, Texas area, went to Mathieu, and that hurt Richardson in his own region.
Final thoughts?
Well, I also agree, from the ACC, but not only from the ACC, but from the state of Alabama. They had Cam and Mark Ingram 2 years ago, and I also think that, voters went for the quarterback position. The quarterback position is the most important position of all the sports, and I feel like that's a safe pick and a flashy pick among voters, and I feel like Robert Griffin, he's been the most exciting player to watch this year. Andrew Luck is projected to be the #1 pick in the NFL draft, so I feel like those aspects, kind of influence the voters to lean towards the quarterbacks.
Well, that'll wrap up this edition of the SEC Sports Guys. Join us again next week. We'll be breaking down all of the SEC bowl games, so tune in.